think about that. Just because you think you're small doesn't mean you're small at all, because to someone else you're tall, someone who's smaller. If you think that you're slow, it doesn't mean that you're slow, because to someone who always finishes last, they look at you as being fast, right? So it's all about perspective at the end of the day, and manage our reaction to our emotions. If it feels good, go with it. If it feels bad, investigate it. Remember, curiosity immediately raises your vibrational level, right? Curiosity is based in love. It's interesting. It's fun. You want to know more. Curiosity is key. And then you allow yourself to receive guidance from spirit. Spirit doesn't communicate on the I Feel Crappy channels. How many times have you heard me say that this weekend? Spirit's vibrating on a high level. That's where they communicate. When you're feeling bad, they can't get to you because you're not on the right frequency. So that's how that works. Okay, let's do Q&A for a while, and then we're gonna open it up. We'll take a break, and we're gonna open it up in the last section for, you can do practice on anything you want. So if anybody has questions, let's get those answered. If you don't, we can go ahead and start practicing in whatever. So anybody have any questions about anything that we've covered so far? Okay, Tessa.
On the past slides, when you look at the mirrors,
Yeah.
You said they open up if it's relevant.
They come out from the wall as I perceive it. They come out from the wall as if they're on a hydraulic arm.
Okay. But for each of us, we might see it differently.
Yeah. You mean you as an individual might see differently than I do?
Yeah, if I'm trying to do it, I haven't got even close to that, but I'm open to.
You may see past life information in a totally different way. You may get information in a totally different way. This is how I perceive it. I gotta have a jumping off point. This is how I do it as a visual learner. It's how it came into me. How it comes into you is perfect. That's why I'm so big on let's figure out what works for you. This is not about you have to do the technique that I do. Absolutely not. It's what comes in for you. How does it work for you? And we'll explore that in the practice session.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's the thing is I don't know how it's going to come in for me. So
my analytical brain is,
okay.
Yeah. It's part of the adventure. I mean, you may not see anything. You may just get information downloaded into your head. But that's what's so fun about this. It's kind of like you go to Disneyland and you're going to ride a Space Mountain for the first time, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, it's going to be so much fun. You're in anticipation of the adventure. Whereas if you knew what was going to happen, once you've ridden the Space Mountain, it's not as fun in the second, third, and 85th time because you've done it. So it's the experience. We've been taught that to stay safe, we want to control everything in our lives. No, we don't. We want to have the adventure. We want to see where are we taken? What's gonna materialize? How's it gonna unfold? Because when we do that, the experience is always way better than what we've imagined, because we don't have a frame of reference for what we're trying to imagine.
Do you have like a 2-minute rule for my brain it's a survival mechanism, but I've honed it really well. So my brain just immediately steps in, and I've noticed even in playing sports, if I'll get out of my way, I can play much better. And I've noticed that with the few experiences that I've had, if I just stay out of my brain. So is there a technique I can use to shut that off so that I can just be open?
Well, I don't think you want to shut it off completely, because we all have the, protective response that we're all hardwired for fear. If there's a bus headed towards you and you're in the middle of the street, you want your brain working going, get out of the street. So that's what I talk about in managing your reaction to perceived negative emotion. Is it real? Is it fake? And you want your brain engaged with that. If it's fake, it's not worth suffering over, and it's not worth going into fight or flight. So if you can do that up front, you got it. You're golden.
And I understand that part. What I've noticed is that my brain, like when we try to, I visualize really easy. So my brain's like, well, it's going to look like this. So I'm like, no, just let it be. But it's difficult for me.
So that's trying to control how it's going to look. Your brain's operating out of fear. That's a fear thing. So use the 2-minute rule. If this shows up and it doesn't look like how I'm picturing it, is that going to kill you in the next 2 minutes? Nope. So that's a learned belief that if you picture it, then, that's going to help keep you safe, regardless of what it is, right? But then when we do that, you got to mute again because you muted. When we let it unfold, when we're trying to control how things are going to happen, we really limit ourselves. We really cut off the experience because the experience is, for the most part, going to be better than we can even imagine because it may involve something that we haven't experienced yet, so we don't have a frame of reference for it. So you're still in fear when you do that. Use the 2-minute rule.
Okay. I mean, it's just so automatic for me.
Yeah. So make the 2-minute rule a habit.
Oh, I'm going to be doing it all the time, but I'll do it. Yeah,
you can do it. I say you can do it 5 billion times a day.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it just becomes automatic, and you just don't even think about it. It's just like there, and you're going to laugh a lot, Tessa. You're going to be going, "Oh my God, really?" Yeah.
You'll laugh. I love to laugh, so that's good.
Yeah, okay. Exactly.
Thank you.
Great question, Tara.
Just a real quick one. When you are doing your past life procedure, can you do that on yourself as well? I know sometimes it's harder to get our own readings. Okay. And you just do the same process on yourself?
Same process, yeah. Hey, I've got this going on. Do I have any past lives that want me? Here's a great one. I'm very open about this. I've been sugar sober for 5 years. I am a colossal sugar addict to the point where cookies are my favorite food group. Any kind of dessert. Even now, I go to a restaurant, I'm looking at the dessert thing, and I don't eat it anymore. So I'll eat berries or something for dessert. But when I walk by a bakery or I walk by the sweets section in a restaurant, I allow myself that dopamine hit. And I'll go, oh my God, look at that. I want one of everything. And then I'll immediately hear in my head, yeah, but I don't eat that anymore. So I get that dopamine hit off of it without eating the sugar. So I wanted to find out, where does this come from? Why am I such a sugar girl my whole life? Well, I'm the daughter of an alcoholic. My father was a recovering alcoholic, got sober when I was a freshman in college. I chose cookies instead of bourbon. First of all, he was a very high functioning, he was an executive. And so that's number one, but I did a past life thing, and I was a mom during the Irish potato famine. And I watched my children die out of starvation. So what's the most concentrated food on the planet? Sugar. Does that have a correlation? You bet it does. You bet it does. So potatoes, are starchy. Potatoes were what the Irish lived off of a lot. And then there's that whole history thing with England taking the best potatoes and leaving the Irish without them and all of that. So there's way more to the story, but that was huge for me. I was like, okay, there's plenty of potatoes and there's plenty of other food that I could eat. I don't have to worry about starving in this lifetime or my children starving and dying. Big one.
So discovering that about yourself and your past experience helped you shift to be able to release that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. And it led me to come up with techniques to help on the physical side as well. I have a dear friend named Dave Asprey, who's a health expert. And I've been on his show a couple times. He's been on my show a couple of times. And I was talking to him a little over 5 years ago. April 1st was when I started being sugar sober. I treat it like it's an addiction. And I was talking to him about it, and I said, Dave, this sugar addiction is kicking my butt. I said, what can I do? I was 60 years old, and I'd tried all these different things to stay off sugar. And he goes, Jules, you got to use the brain octane oil. And I said, what's that? Well, it's an MCT oil that is, the brain works on either glucose or ketones. It creates ketones. It is the number one thing physically that has helped me stay off sugar for 5 years. You got a link on it in my resources thing. And I use it on my food. It comes in little gel caps. It comes in a liquid form. It was poured on my lunch, 2 tablespoons of it. I do not crave sugar when I use that. It helps my brain work better. So I figured out what was going on the spiritual side. I trusted I would figure it out. Within a matter of short period of time, I was having a phone conversation with my buddy Dave, and he goes, Jules, you got to use the brain octane oil. So now it's just on auto delivery from Amazon. It's miraculous for me. I recommend it to a lot of people. So, yeah. And the other thing about that too, and here's how it's prolonged. I had had a surgery several years prior to that, and I had a pretty long scar. It was about 5 inches long or so.